The Irrational Confidence Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and we're finally here. We're in week number 12. Colder outside. Snow is starting to fall at certain locations. I'm joined by my co-host, the man who figured out why seagulls fly over the seas. Because if they flew over the bay, they'd be called bagels. Fresh, how you doing, buddy?
Haps doing fantastic. Happy birthday, by the way. Big 41. We are into week 12. I mean, where did this season go? It's mid-November. We are this week and then a 1 week kind of and then rivalry week. And games this week are going to be extremely intense. We have a load today we're going to talk about, that really come down to significance, to keeping at-large bids or playoff spots in general wide open. Like, every game right now counts. And this is why I think I'm against expanding the playoff, because if we expand the playoff to 16 or 24, these games in week 12, 13, 14 start meaning less. Does a loss matter? Does a win matter? It just expands the field. It really, the impact does not fail. These games now mean much more for that 7 or 8 teams with the power, the group of 5 team included. They're all vying for that coveted playoff spot. It makes coming to the stadium, it makes tuning in on TV, it makes all practices that much more important, because you have to give it all to get into the show in mid to late December.
Yeah, Fresh, let's talk real quick about these rankings here. There was some, voodoo magic going on in the latest edition of the college football playoff rankings. I really don't have top 9. I have 0 issues with. It's really like 10 on with Texas, and people are going to say, okay, well, Texas is playing Georgia this week. That could be a knockout game. Not so fast, my friend. I looked at this for a second here, and I rubbed my eyes for a second and go, there's no way. There's no way this is accurate. Tennessee lost last weekend and went up 2 spots in the playoff rankings. This is accurate, right?
Tennessee does not deserve to be in. Iowa does not deserve to be in. Missouri not being in is correct. There are some
2 spots.
Yeah.
So losing football games no longer matters.
Tennessee has not beaten a ranked opponent, whether currently in the polls or at the time of the game. Where is this love affair of Tennessee coming from?
I don't know.
I'd rather, honestly, if we're going to do it, Missouri and Tennessee are the exact same resume. What are we going to rank? And honestly, if you're going to have this, Missouri has a better win over Kansas than Tennessee does over Syracuse. So what are we doing here, folks? Tennessee actually has more egregious losses. Vanderbilt lost for Missouri with the backup quarterback. You can actually say they played that game tougher. They played Alabama tougher. You're splitting hairs. Maybe Missouri's a better football team, and they're not ranked, so Tennessee shouldn't be either. 3 losses or 3 losses. So This is, are you just adding a team? Like, what? Why are we putting in Navy? Why aren't we putting San Diego State? Why aren't we putting in a Houston?
James Madison.
James Madison. Like, where, I mean, yeah, we got USF in, but Tulane, why aren't they ranked? Tulane has, a win over Duke, which is probably just as impressive as any Tennessee win. They have a win over Northwestern, just probably as impressive as most Tennessee wins anyway. So what are we doing here, folks?
Yeah. And Fresh, you brought up during the recap episode that, like, this whole playoff ranking thing is always going to be filled with people, what are they going to say? SEC and Big Ten bias here. And what do people expect when you have major expansion? And then on top of that, you got major TV deals on board. But here's my issue. Tennessee loses last week to Oklahoma. Okay, fine. Oklahoma's a good football team. I'm not going to take anything away. And they move up 2 spots. Iowa loses on a last second field goal. They only drop a spot. And then you have a team like BYU, who loses to the biggest mover and maybe probably one of the better teams in this entire thing. And they're better than Oklahoma. They're better than probably Oregon too. Texas Tech makes a nice jump and BYU drops 5 spots. Like, I can't make this stuff up in my mind. I really can't. The fact is, I feel like sometimes results don't matter on the field. Like, okay, you lost, but you got to keep going in.
Hey, the committee members put their hats on the rack when they walked into the room, like they were actually going into work and checking in, like they're going into the coal mine. What a bunch of idiots. This is just, and I think they're probably also like in their minds, well, after the bottom 10 of the top 25 doesn't really matter. The top 15, you want to have the 3 French teams there. The top ACC team, and this is where it also gets crazy. The top 12 doesn't really matter because the top ACC team is ranked at 16 or 17. And then you have the group of 5 team as USF in the bottom 20. So technically the top 12 doesn't matter because you're looking at the 11 and 12 teams, which still has Texas included in the top 10, but 11 and 12 would be wiped away because they're going to get replaced by teams that are ranked lower than them just by the conference champion and group of 5 affiliation that is required in the playoffs. So the committee members are basically just punting literally and figuratively on the rankings. Like, you know what? It'll sort itself out. We're going to let it take care of us. We're just going to do this for a show and for ratings and discussion points because we can completely just change how we want to go about it come the Sunday after championship Saturday, because that's the only one that matters. We're just doing this for TV right now to cause, social media and podcasts and TV talk points for the next month.
Yeah. At least they're delivering us content where we can say how just ridiculous they are. So, all right, folks. Well, hey, before we get rolling into this week's games, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episodes. We'll be here on Sunday at some point, and I will release my playoff bracket, which is releasing his on spinnablesports.com. So make sure you're going and checking those out. With that being said, Fresh, let's go into the weekend here. Week 12, this game's kicking off at noon. It's going to be in Pittsburgh, PA. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish are traveling to face the Pitt Panthers. Pitt is 7-2 on the year. Notre Dame 7-2 on the year. This is I feel like the last major hurdle for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish right now. Notre Dame is an 11.5 point road favorite in this game. Pitt has been on a roll at times, though, this season. I've been impressed with this Panthers team. You think about what they have. They had Holston, and then he goes out with an injury. They got a kid who is a true freshman playing and balling out for them. Is Notre Dame truly on upset watch right now? Let's just start there.
I think first off, what Pat Narduzzi has in that defense, he's always produced defensive players there at Pitt. Lewis and that entire group of linebackers, they're going to hit. They're going to, in the cover, they're going to second. And secondary, they're going to cover. They're going to blitz. They're going to tackle. The one thing that he really was lacking his entire time was an offense. That's why last year he went out and got Cade Bell. Cade Bell came in from Western Carolina, works for his dad, played for his dad at JU here in Jacksonville. They can throw the football around. They have a very high-paced offense, a fast-paced, high-volume, high percentage throw that produce a lot of challenges for an opposing defense, whether it's left, right, vertical, putting the ball across the field, running backs, receivers, tight ends, everyone included. Last year, you saw sort of spurts. They started off 7-0, and then they kind of stumbled down the stretch with injuries to Desmond Reed, inconsistencies across the board. This year, you've seen a little growth in that offense where Desmond Reed's been in and out of the lineup, but Ja'Carrion Turner has just picked up right ever and has been able to run and catch out of the backfield along with the receivers they have, and I'll talk about them in a second. And really, the offense, how explosive it is. Mason Heintzel's been great, and he's really shown something. He really actually burst on the scene the week when they beat Florida State. That would think was his coming out party. All right, before he's shown some great things with Eli Holstein being hurt and being kind of benched, but then Mason comes in, lights up Florida State, and then sort of sets it and keeps going from there. And you look at the stats, the quarterback position is built for the quarterback to be successful in the offense if you just deliver on time and where your first and second read are supposed to be at. Offense in the scheme is pretty simple. Cade Bell has designed it just like he was actually taught under his dad. Put the ball in space. First read, boom, get rid of the ball. First read, boom, get rid of the ball. First read, boom, get rid of the ball. Not having to sit back there in the pocket for very, very long, sort of scope it out. These plays are designed to be a one snap, one throw, in motion, hit the space. So far, stats. Heinzel, 118 for 184 for 1,500 yards, 64% completion percentage, averaging 8.4 yards of completion. 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, but he does get sacked a lot. He has 16 sacks so far. Holstein, before he relinquished his starting spot, he was 74 for 119 for 1,000 yards, 62% completion percentage, 8.9 average, 11 touchdowns, 6 picks, and 9 sacks. So you are going to get sacks if that first read is taken, but it's designed very high percentage, get rid of the ball. But they do run a lot of verts in between. Every single play that's called is going to have at least one go route included to really draw the safeties back and have them, by it. If the safety gets lazy, they're going to hit you over top. It also allows for the running game because they're so spread out on defense, anything can happen. So if the offense is flying and Notre Dame can be containing this offense and being spread out and not having to really rely on being a dominant at the line of scrimmage, it's going to create problems for the Irish. I think they're going to have a chance here to be on guard. If I am Notre Dame, the best way to, in my opinion, attack this defense is look what they did a couple of years ago when Caleb Williams and USC came to town. Al Golden in that defense under Marcus Freeman shut Caleb down. And that was the real coming of like, all right, maybe Caleb Williams isn't that great and maybe USC's frauds. They locked it down. They played physical defense. They jammed the receivers and they tackled in space. If they bring that same philosophy to this ball game, they're going to create a lot of pain for Pitt. But Pitt can be explosive on offense and turn this into a track meet, which I don't think Notre Dame has technically seen until, except or since they played Texas A&M back in September. So this is going to be a nice game to really test the juices of Notre Dame. And also, are they actually a playoff team? They haven't had much competition since that. They rebounded well. They have two, you can say, good losses to ranked teams. If they can come out and destroy Pitt, put up a big number, win big, it's going to solidify them as a playoff team. But if Pitt can come out there and pull off the upset, that's 3 losses. It might actually put Notre Dame out.
I think it would.
It's a big game to really put Notre Dame. The Notre Dames they have to be focused and have their attention on Pitt. Because 3 losses, maybe it puts them at 12 seed or 11 seed at worst, but it really impacts where Notre Dame's going to be and puts their entire hopes of the playoff and going to return to the championship game at stake. You look back at one thing, they have great defensive backs there at Notre Dame. They're going to have to find ways to contain Kenny Johnson and Raphael Williams Jr. Both have over 500 yards receiving. Both are big-time targets. There's not just one guy who gets involved. I mentioned Turner earlier. If Desmarie can be healthy, that gives you 4 big-time playmakers in that Pitt offense. Working with that quarterback, and Mason can really guide and find ways to be explosive. I think it'll be close for a half, but I think Notre Dame with Jeremiah Love and the running back room all together and CJ Carr growing as a quarterback, they're just going to wear them down. They're going to take the air out of the ball. They're going to have long, sustained drives. Notre Dame will pull away in the second half, but Pitt will give them a scare. In the end, though, this game, they said earlier in the press conference, Pitt could lose 100-0. Their focus is still alive in playing the ACC championship game and trying to win an ACC title. This is not being an ACC game. That aspect, there are multiple paths for Pitt to make the playoff. If Pitt wins this ball game, it's going to move them up, obviously, the top 25. And puts them in that conversation, potentially a fringe, maybe 11 or 12 seed, things roll out their way as the season progresses. So a win helps them, but a loss does not hurt their playoff hopes because they still have a path to the playoff. In the end, Notre Dame wins, find ways to power through late, but it'll be fun for a first half.
Yeah. Are you liking them with that, was it plus 11.5, I said, or minus 11.5? Do you like them that bit much?
I'm going to say maybe Pitt in the points.
I feel that way too.
2 touchdowns. I think Pitt could score and find ways to move the football on Notre Dame to make it maybe a 7 or a 10-point game. But that 11.5 is tricky. And I'll take Pitt the points, but Notre Dame to just straight up money line.
Yeah, I like Notre Dame to win this game. Here's the thing that I was looking at Notre Dame just a touch here, and this shows you how weird 2025 season's been. How are we not talking about a quarterback like CJ Carr? Like, again, everything in the world should scream like the kid's at Notre Dame, so he's going to get the media attention. The kid's completing 67% of his passes, almost 68% of his passes, 19 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the year. The kid's thrown for over 2,000 yards already. Oh, yeah, and just a reminder, he's the grandson of Lloyd Carr, the great coach for the Wolverines back in the 90s. I just feel like there's a story there that and I don't know if this is the whole, like, who's in bed with who with TV companies. Notre Dame really hasn't had like a big marquee game since early on in the season. I mean, the USC game was a big marquee game. I take that back. But I feel like there's a story to be written right now about CJ Carr. And it just kind of shocks me. Like, when people talk about Notre Dame, the first things they talk about, 2 running backs. By far, yeah, Jeremiah Love and Price over there are absolutely killing it. Those 2 are monsters. And I am very intrigued to see how Pitt even thinks about stopping those 2. And then you talk about the defense, you talk about Marcus Freeman, all of these other things. And then, like, 4th or 5th on the list, you get to CJ Carr. And no one's bringing him up. No one's talking about him. Even in this prep work for this game, like, you look at what Pitt's saying. They're talking about their quarterback and their opportunity for these things. Again, there's CJ Carr sitting in the background. I'm like, man, 2025 has been a weird college football season. I'm intrigued to see which Notre Dame defense comes out. Like, is this the anaconda, like, I'm going to completely own you because you're an ACC and we kind of feel you're a lesser opponent? Or does Notre Dame, for less than a better sense of it, kind of play with their food? Similar to I'm kind of looking at that USC game as kind of a comparable comparison, because I think USC probably is a touch better talent-wise. I wouldn't say like it's a major difference between USC and Pitt, but if Pitt can kind of have that game plan that USC did, where they hung around all day long, and Notre Dame didn't put that game away till late. Pitt being at home could be a huge advantage if they're hanging around in the fourth quarter. Pitt could put a scare into Notre Dame. I like Pitt in the points myself. Again, I'm not going to bet against Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame Fighting Irish because I think they're playing at a different level of football ever since that Texas A&M game. But again, this is a scary game going into Pittsburgh. It's going to be cold. It's going to probably be windy up there. It's going to be a rough one for them. I like Notre Dame to win, but keep an eye out for this football game.
Yeah, I mean, this is that one where it's playoff implications on both sides, whether it's seeding or just keeping your hopes alive. 3 losses is going to look rough. You know what? I mean, you have to see the rest of the way the season plays out. And Notre Dame is money. Notre Dame is money, and they're going to see, hey, we put that logo in, we put that pride in. 4 losses you can't, but 3 losses still keeps them on the fringe. And they're going to look back and say, well, they lost, to 1 point to Texas A&M. They lost, in a dramatic comeback by 3 to Miami. That will help say that they're actually really good football. They're a good football team. And they're supposed to pick the best 12, not, where they're ranked. They're going to find the best 12, and they're going to use that justification. So you have to basically destroy Notre Dame to keep them out of the playoff at this rate. They've kept themselves in. If Notre Dame comes out and wins this football game, they're a lock. Pencil them in. Just be prepared for it.
Yeah. All right, Fresh, let's go to another noon kickoff. This will be an interesting one in the American Conference. The South Florida Bulls are traveling to Annapolis, Maryland, and they're facing the Navy Academy, the Midshipmen. They're home underdogs, 10.5 points against South Florida right now. Navy's been good this year, 7-2 on the season. Their loss a couple weeks ago last week to Notre Dame, lost prior to that to North Texas. You're kind of wondering, is the Navy football team kind of like circling the drain here? What are they going to be seeing? But both of those games were on the road. They get South Florida at home. South Florida, ever since their upset, huge win, but they've kind of been a little more quiet since that moment. Another opportunity for them this weekend.
And this is a chance right here for Navy to keep themselves in that race for the American. But really, this is a chance for USF to lock themselves into the American title game and almost make the odds much more, in their favor that they are going to the college football playoff. After this game, you have UAB and Rice. So if you're USF, you lock it all in, you go for it. You know what Navy is. Be prepared to tackle, be prepared to get, chopped, and you're going to get a lot of cut blocks. You have to be ready for it. You defensive linemen have got to be ready for it. But tackle in space at all times, keep your eye disciplined, and you'll be just fine defensively. And Navy has developed much more passing game, become more, as balanced as they possibly can. So also when that play action hits, you safeties can't be looking in the backfield. They've got to maintain their discipline, maintain their levels, and be able to not only cover, but keep an eye on those receivers sneaking out. The bottom line of this ballgame, though, is going to be a quarterback masterclass. You have Byron Brown and you have Blake Horvath. Horvath is an amazing quarterback. Byron Brown's, they're both one-man machines, and their one-man offenses kind of remind me of like a Y.H. Tittle back in the 50s and 60s where they just do it all. They will throw, they will run, and heck, they might even have plays in their playbooks where they're catching passes. They're one-man machines. They're single-wing offenses, and they have a great supporting cast that allows them to be successful. But really, if they're going, they're in great shape. What Byron Brown's done so far this season and what he did, a couple of weeks ago, historic. And he's showing, would he have actually been able to put this on if he had been injured the past couple of years and had the motivation to come back this year? Or is this always there the entire time? And we're just finally seeing him fully healthy and showcasing. Either way, I love it. I think USF is motivated. Alex Golish has kept the team focused. He's been in rumors for jobs all across the country, and this team keeps playing for him. I think they're going to be locked in. They're going to get after it. He's going to take care of business, and Tyler Randall's defense is going to find a way to shut down Navy. USF gets the dub, and I think they get it by double digits. I think this team is locked in. They are ready. They know the opportunity is right there in front of them, and they have a chance to take advantage of it. Don't let the moment fly away. Don't let the moment become short. And a funny part that dawned on me also, we talk about the 2007 season all the time, or how it was crazy and chaos, and there was just all over the place. 2 times. USF was number 2. Well, but in 2007, USF was number 2 in the country at one point. And Hawaii was undefeated. They had the WAC. Like there was the non-Power 4, and that's talking about all these Power 5, but on big-time schools making noise in the landscape. USF has a chance to really rewrite a chapter in their history by getting themselves into the playoff if they come in here and beat Navy and lock themselves in the American title game.
Yeah, I think this is a big opportunity for USF. The question I keep wondering myself is, Alex Golesh, where do you have him going? Like, do you have him staying at USF at the end of this year?
His wife has strong connections to Arkansas. I think Arkansas is a great gig for him. Florida, if Lane Kiffin spurns him, you might have to go. Right now I'm hearing John Summerall rumors to Auburn. It's waiting for that first chip. And the first chip is going to be LSU. And then it's going to be Florida. And once those chips start falling, then we'll start knowing what the rest of the jobs are. I think Auburn's third on the list. Even though they have, I think people are just at Auburn when they look for a job. Who wants to deal with the boosters who are always chirping? We keep talking about this united Auburn. It's always the boosters in the background. Every single coach that comes through there, whether it's the right guy or the wrong guy. At least at Florida, they've given guys at least a 5 year at least to go out and try to get it done. And LSU, they've given some resources. But Auburn, it just seems like always looking over your shoulder 24/7. And that is the
go to Penn State. They give you 12 years, 11, 12 years, whatever they give Franklin.
I don't think Golesh is going to Penn
I don't
State.
think he is either. But if you want security,
Brian Dable being fired from the Giants absolutely would be interesting at Penn State. The LSU job, the only reason that's really scary is if I'm Golesh, you're kind of like, do I take the offer, even though there's a lot of chaos from the governor and the AD and the president and all this other nonsense going on? Do you want to invest with that mess? And that's the LSU one also creates chaos. And they're just going to be sitting around waiting for which job gets taken and which coach is the first one off the board. But I think Golesh to Arkansas, because obviously you're seeing Bobby Petrino's not getting it done. Golesh to Arkansas will be interesting.
The reason I asked that question, Fresh, is because it's easy to ignore that noise early on the season in September, October, whenever we had our first round of firing. As the calendar turns to November and as we get closer and closer to December, because you're right, those jobs are going to start being snatched up probably first week of December.
I mean, yeah, he's probably getting close.
Probably getting close. What impact does that have on South Florida? And with the players, because they're like, okay, he's here, he's committed to us, he's saying all these right things. We can focus on the moment. And it's real easy to do when you're focusing on that moment against Rice or whoever you're playing like that. And it's October. It's November now. And the playoffs are in front of you, and you're trying to say all these things. We got to remember that we're dealing with 18 to 25-year-olds, I guess, if you're depending on what school you're at. And how much eligibility you have left. They are kids. They are impacted by those things. And then you start thinking about, well, if he's not here, it's going to open up the portal for me, or what type of coach is going to come in here, or where I could go to, blah, 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 all these other things too. This is a game for me. While I think South Florida is the better team, this is the game for me for South Florida to show how focused they are as a team. Can they come in? Can they stop the triple option? Can they show that they are a focused team, that they can continue to go onto this and go into the playoff? And who knows, maybe make some noise at a 12 seed. Because here's the thing, the back half of this playoff right now, how it falls out, I get it. You're a 12 seed going into 5. And again, if you're drawing Texas Tech in that realm there, I don't love that matchup. But let's say for giggles here, South Florida is getting Oregon or Ole Miss. And again, tough place to play, home game for that one, but I don't hate their chances. It's not like it's just, to me, it's like slam dunk, it's over. Like Grant, South Florida would be the underdog in that game, obviously, but I'm just saying I like that they have a puncher's chance in one of those games there. I can see that more if South Florida goes to Annapolis, just kind of owns the game, doesn't let Navy take any type of control. Okay. You're kind of reinforcing what I thought of you, but you got to do it this weekend. You got to reinforce that fact.
Yeah, this is the show up week. Just get it done. And if I'm Alex Golesh, I get the same philosophy that Lane Kiffin had with his team. It's like, guys, look, I'm going to be honest with you. When you're winning, your name gets brought up for jobs. It's a good thing. Yes, if I leave or I don't leave, the fact that we're doing it, my name is being thrown out there is because all of you guys are being successful. You guys are executing on game day. It's not me. Like, I'm not called the plays. You're still the ones tackling. You're still the ones catching the ball. You're the ones blocking. You guys are having success. So number one, a chance for us to really do something special to get the playoff and win. Also, if I did leave, you guys are going to build your own portal stock by playing at a high level if you're not all getting exposure to go to the NFL. So play for each other, you'll never have this team again. Go out there and just accomplish something and make it really special. And then we'll see what happens once the season's over, but let's focus on the now and go try to win. And if we win, all of our stocks in whatever element is going to be increased. So it's live in the moment. Let's take advantage of it. Whether you transfer, whether your NIL gets higher, whether you get drafted or I get a contract, we're all going to reap the benefits if we bond together and keep winning. I mean, USF has the same philosophy here. Bond together and keep winning and see where the chips fall at the end.
All right, Fresh, let's go to the 3:30 kickoffs. This game's down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. The Oklahoma Sooners, they're 7-2 on the season. Alabama 8-1, 6-0 in SEC play here. Oklahoma is a real opportunity to play spoiler in this game. And I feel like Alabama's starting to take like a deeper breath as they get closer and closer to the SEC title game. I think that they're almost a lock into the SEC title game. There's a couple of weird, funky things that could happen, but they're getting very, very close to that as well here, because I believe if they win this one, they are a lock. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, though.
There's some tiebreakers, but it's like a 92% chance if they win. Like they're who knows on tiebreakers and all that, but after that, they have Auburn at Auburn, but they're probably most likely, and you look at tiebreakers, the way it all plays out. You win this one, I will say you're guaranteed a playoff spot. If you win this game, you're locked for the playoff, period. The title game, it's almost a guarantee as well. So this is just more of a lock it down, get it done. It's all in front of you. Right. But the most important thing I think right now for Kalen DeBoer and the entire Alabama football team is what happened last year in Norman. They were absolutely eviscerated. Jalen Milroe looked terrible. The team got shredded. Oklahoma pulled off a massive upset out of nowhere. It was something that really, we've seen the revenge tour so far on Alabama going after it, who beat them last year and making sure they got it. They got Tennessee, they got Vanderbilt. Oklahoma was the next one on that list. They can't play Michigan unless they find them in a bowl game. This is the chance. They're going to put it all out there. And Oklahoma, the one chance Oklahoma has, two. Number one, shut down Alabama's running game. Alabama's not been able to run the ball a year. You can take away the running game. You make them one-dimensional. Then hopefully maybe your pass rush or your secondary can show up and get after Ty Simpson. They didn't exactly destroy LSU. They haven't been actually destroying people, but they've been winning tough games. If you can grind it out and force some turnovers and shut down the running game that's already having issues with, you are going to put a lot of pressure on Ty Simpson. And you know what? Either he goes out there and gets it done and puts himself in the Heisman campaign and puts himself in New York City, or eventually the glass slipper drops and he starts throwing some picks and making some mistakes. But if you're Oklahoma, you have to keep the same philosophy that you were last year, but also know there are going to be changes. You're going to have to be flexible and be prepared that, hey, what we did last year is great, but the team we have now is not the team we had last year. You can't go in and say, well, we stopped this and we stopped that. Hey, Simpson's completely different from Jalen Milroe. The receivers might be the same. The offensive line, for the most part, might be the same. The running backs are not. And you have to be able to just take whatever you had, wash it, and be prepared of, we've got to tackle. We have to cover in space. We've got to, whatever running game they have, completely shut it down, RM, and force Ty Simpson to beat us. And hopefully you make a couple plays in the end of the ballgame. All in all, focused on revenge, and they are on a warpath. The Tide win this game, and you know what? I think they win by 10. This might be a double-digit way, a late drive that sort of sealed it. They had up 7 and go down, punch another field goal in to sort of put the 10-point lead, leave almost no time on the clock. The only way Oklahoma wins is if that defense shuts down the running game, forces some turnovers, and John Mateer plays out of his mind, which haven't seen in a long time. He didn't even look that great when they played Michigan earlier. That offense is, I think, under-delivered based on what we thought was coming in. And yes, there's been some injuries, but that Oklahoma team has not been at the level in big games that we thought they were going to be. They looked good versus Tennessee, but they had a defensive touchdown. They got a lot of turnovers in that ball game. I want to see what they can do here, knowing that Alabama is hell-bent on revenge. I think the Tide get it done. But Oklahoma, you're going to have to pull off some crazy stuff. And Brett Venables, you might have to do your best coaching of all time to really get this upset in Tuscaloosa.
I see one path to victory for the Sooners here, and it kind of builds on what you said there, Fresh. Oklahoma is one of the top run defenses in the SEC and one of the better ones in the country. If they can completely just stop that Alabama run game, it's over for it. It can really get kind of hairy for them. The other is the flip side of that is run defense has been a good bend, don't break type of run defense, but it hasn't been the elite Alabama run defense that we're used to in the years. I was sitting there thinking back to this fresh, and I looked up a couple of quick stats there. I looked up, okay, how did Alabama do stopping the run against Missouri as a pretty decent running back? Georgia has a good set of running backs there. How did they do against in those two games? I was like, oh, okay, they gave up quite a bit of yardage. Yeah, there's some things there that don't look too great. The yards per carry was a little bit of the concerning thing, especially in the Missouri game. Like Bo Perdilia, if I can ever say his name correctly, was averaging like 6 yards a carry before he started really struggling there. And then I looked at Alabama on the season. 139 yards per game on the ground, and is that what that run defense is giving up. Florida and Kentucky have better run defenses than the Alabama Crimson Tide right now. That means that if Oklahoma can kind of, again, just frustrate the Tide's offense, and you can run and shorten the game and then put points on the scoreboard, granted, yeah, touchdowns, not field goals here in this one, you could walk out of Tuscaloosa and maybe pull off the upset. I will say this, it can make Alabama very uncomfortable, but it all comes down to whether or not Oklahoma can stop the run, and can Alabama stop the run, or is Oklahoma going to use who they have? I know Blaylock is hurt right now. He didn't play very much in that Tennessee game. I think he had one carry with there. Xavier Robinson was the main back, and we do know what Notre can do with his legs. But that's really it in my eyes. I don't think it's going to be a passing attack. But Alabama, I'm going to say, wins this football game. I see why Vegas has this less than a touchdown game, though.
I mean, this is Alabama hasn't blown people out. I think that also lingers. They've fought through. They've had hard foot games, but they have not won like games like 20, by 20 plus points. It's a different Alabama football team that they're resilient. But if Brett Venables has done it before, but he did it when he was at Clemson, obviously completely different coaching staff in Alabama. But Brett Venables somehow has had success with Alabama in the team itself, regardless of coaching staff. Interesting to see what he concocts and what he brings after this entire, Kalen DeBoer offense and led football team. What disguises did he bring for Ty Simpson? Because if he can sort of get him going and that running in for Oklahoma starts, churning, that does create lack of possessions and some consternation for that Alabama offense to fight back and maybe start throwing up some passes in desperation. Turnover sort of spike from there. But I still think Alabama wins.
Yeah, I do too. That's why I said this is the only path to victory I saw right there.
Yeah, you have to be perfect in every element.
You really do. All right, Fresh, let's go out to the West Coast. This is a 3:30 kickoff as well. It is the Iowa Hawkeyes taking their amazing defensive show on the road versus the USC Trojans. They're 7-2 on the year. Although there is reports that they've already left the offense back in Iowa. The defense team has already got there. The offense, will see who shows up on game day for the Iowa Hawkeyes. USC right now, I think USC is a quiet team that's on a mission right now. Hasn't done a ton of talking, kind of wanted to take care of their business, win football games. They got a nice stretch here going this weekend. Oregon next weekend. Cannot get caught looking ahead to Oregon. USC is a 6.5-point favorite in this football game here, Fresh. Iowa has one of the top. I think they have the number 4 defense in yards allowed, number 5 in points there. USC, though, I've been really impressed with what Lincoln Riley has been able to do out there. Jaden Maeva has looked really, really good. What do you got for USC Iowa?
Well, can Iowa bring that magic they had in Kinnick last week and try and get that out there to the Coliseum? Are they the same team at home in a night game as they are on the road in another ranked matchup? Where's were they just feeding up the home crowd and all that element, or are they actually a legit football team that can travel and play at the same level? So they can, they're going to beat USC. The discipline, the way you beat USC, it's a different football team this year. It's not a normal Lincoln Riley team. The offense isn't throwing all over the place. The defense has actually played much better. It's a weird kind of like, I don't know, am I seeing something different, or am I seeing a growth from Lincoln Riley and that entire coaching staff? Because in the past, we would expect, all right, the offense is all they got. They have to score 40 a game. And when the offense isn't in sync, that entire team will just crumble. This defense is playing better. They're tougher at the line of scrimmage. Maeva has actually been a solid, although we shouldn't be too shocked. He was good at UNLV. Georgia actually brought him in this past offseason, initially the transfer portal, And then the last minute, he transferred at USC when Miller Moss left. There's talent there. He can just maintain his down distance, maintain his breath. Don't try to do too much. Just play his game. He's kind of a very similar to Diego Pavia. Doesn't have the ego or the swagger that Pavia has, but he has that I'm going to put the team on my back mentality. I'm going to run. I'm going to throw. I'm going to create offense. And sometimes it can be on script, sometimes off script. And that's where the unpredictability comes into play. You don't know what you're going to get, but you have to always prepare for him making a play one way or another. Iowa's defense is very disciplined, and that does give them a solid element that helps them take down this quarterback. But running quarterbacks, no matter who you are, always give defenses trouble, and you have to tackle in space. And if you start giving up broken, yard after contact, yard after catches, whatever it might be from that quarterback element, you're going to get exposed. You have to play focused and deliver, just like you delivered versus Oregon. Dante, more in the pocket, controlling him, forcing turnovers. You want the crowd on your side, but you're going to have to use that same kind of mentality of keep the quarterback in the pocket, force him to make mistakes. And eventually, if he does lose focus, he's going to choke. All in all, I think they used up all their energy last week, and I don't think they have the juice to make this trip and be able to pull up an upset USC. USC knows what they have in front of them. The irony again is Lincoln Riley has a chance to make a playoff, which Maeva and never did with Caleb Williams. That's the funny part. I think the team is better. It's not a superstar quarterback. The team is better. And I think that's why they get the job done versus Iowa and to keep their playoff hopes alive. It'll probably be a half, and the second half USC full.
Yeah, I think so too, Fresh. I'm impressed with USC. I think I was thinking quite a bit about this. And Lincoln Riley, and again, came up under Bob Stoops, right? That's the coaching tree he came up under, right?
Yeah, he was under Stoops very, very quickly. And then he was at Texas Tech. He's been all over the place. He had some Mike Leach elements and Cliff Kingsbury elements. I think he did a year under Stoops and then replaced him.
Right. And I was thinking about all the places that he was at, and everything that Lincoln Riley knew was offense. He's in the old Big 12 where defense was optional. We always said that. And then he gets a job like Oklahoma where they're kind of leaving the Big 12, and he jets over to USC for Hollywood, the glitz and glamour and all that stuff. And he gets criticized quite a bit because he has this great offense is where his coaching and that's where his lineage came from. But USC could not play defense at all. Like, they were terrible on defense, and people forget that. And then all of a sudden, I think he finally has spent the last 2 years where sometimes the whole statement of like, you think that you know something until you realize that you don't. And then what do you do in that situation? How quickly can you learn something? And I think we just always assume that a head coach is great on both sides of the football. Like, they know X's and O's. Again, from an average Joe, I guarantee you that Lincoln Riley can diagram defenses and make my head spin. I guarantee you can do that. But when you go up against these guys who really know what they're talking about, I kind of wondered if he had a deficiency, and he has spent the last 2 to 3 years trying to go, listen, I know I have a deficiency. I'm going to try to make it better now. And again, it's not going to be something that happens overnight. I'm a firm believer in the 10,000 hour rule. It takes you a long time to get good at something. And maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year that we're actually seeing this USC team become an elite level team again. Or I don't want to say elite level. Scratch that. Very, very good level team. Moving back up into that tier 2 of college football. Because they were in tier 3 or tier 4, wherever you want to rank them. And all of a sudden, we're starting to see it there. I'm super intrigued in this game. Jaden Maeva to Mekhi Lemon against that Iowa pass rush and that Iowa secondary. What is he able to do? Because Mekhi Lemon, I would say, is a top 5 receiver in the country, and he's probably getting the least amount of notoriety outside of people like us who are talking about him. And our producer, Drew, who was really early on that. And our producer, Drew, usually has a really good eye for things like that.
Yeah, I mean, kind of look at this way this is playing out. Development and growth, they sense they have a chance. They do. I think they're going to learn from a couple of years back where, we're in the Pac-12 title game versus Utah. We're going to come in kind of chilling. Caleb Williams is painting his nails. They want the attention. Right. They thought it was a lock. And then they got upset, and then they lose to Tulane and also spiral from there. This is a chance to have a different approach, a team-first mentality that it will show growth from Lincoln Riley. It'll show more people trusting USC again, which we haven't done in a long, long time.
They really haven't. All right, Fresh, let's go to the logo game, the big time matchup this weekend. It's the Texas Longhorns. They're going into Athens, Georgia to face the Georgia Bulldogs. Get your popcorn ready, because I'll say this. 5 or 6 weeks ago, Texas was struggling. You know what? This game lost a little luster to me at the time. Thankfully, Texas has kicked themselves off the mat, and that's not towards Georgia. It is towards Texas losing the luster of this game. They have kicked themselves off the mat. But I am going to point something out here. It's pretty commonly known Ryan Day has a Michigan problem. Kirby Smart has a Alabama problem. If Sark doesn't win this game, it is time for us to say, Steve Sarkisian, you have a Georgia problem. Right now, Georgia is a 6.5 point home favorite in this game, over under set at 48.5. Texas needs this game desperately, because if they do not win this football game, I don't care what happens the last week this season. If you are a committee member worth any of your salt, you're putting Texas into this game just to be a logo in the playoff if they don't beat Georgia here. Georgia, Kirby Smart's had them ready to play. They looked a little bit better against Mississippi State in the first half. Been a cardiac team all year long, but they looked better in that regard here as well. They got to start fast in this football game and really give Archman some. We need to see old Archman, not the kid that we've seen the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Texas has improved. There's still some kinks in the armor, but so is Georgia. You look at the way they fought. They had a huge lead on Vandy a couple weeks ago. They let Vanderbilt sneak back into the ballgame. They held on, but they were boat racing them pretty bad. I think the one thing that kind of also turned the team on was the loss at Florida kind of got their attention. They obviously went out and beat Oklahoma handily in the Red River Shootout. And then Mississippi State taking them, coming back from down 17 on the road, having to galvanize themselves, fight in that environment, go win it in overtime. Huge for Texas. I think that actually tested the integrity of the football team. Were they going to quit? Were they going to keep fighting? It hasn't been in dominant fashion, but they have won games and they've found ways to fight through. That loss to Florida was pretty painful. And that was really because the offensive line and Arch were just absolutely abysmal. And that Florida defense played fantastic. So there are ways to beat Texas, but you have to be physical. Oklahoma was not, and they were out physical at the line of scrimmage. That's why they lost. Mississippi State was not. That's why they eventually blew that 17-point lead in the second half. And Vanderbilt was just not physical enough to start the ball game. They were able to hold on and get themselves back into it, but if they started as slow as they did, they weren't ready enough from the very beginning. Can Texas keep that mentality of being physical at the line of scrimmage on both ends? They have tons of talent. We want to see that talent play out. The offensive line has shown growth. Arch has shown growth, partly because he's been upright and not being hit as much lately. But the playmakers around them are getting the football in space now and actually doing something with it. Sark is calling games differently. They're finding more trust in the receivers who need to be there. We've seen Texas have success against Georgia in spurts, but not consistently in the past. They had some success in this Iowa game. They had some success in the third quarter. But the reason why Georgia won both those games is that defense was relentless and ruthless. They set the tone. They forced turnovers, and they hit Ewers and Arch all night long. There was no reprieve. There was a complete doghouse mentality. We are going to hit everything that moves. Kind of remember the line of, remember the Titans where he tells the team, I don't want them to gain another yard. We're blitzing all night. That was what Georgia did in those two games. They were attacking Texas. What does Texas learn from that? And how does Georgia use that mentality and that precedent to mess with Texas, figuratively and literally, to give them different looks and then play out of it because we saw this the past 2 times we played them. How do we change that up? Or do they stick with the same game plan? Hey, it worked twice before. Let's do it again. It's going to be a lot of cat and mouse. I think this is going to be a very low scoring affair where teams are it's going to be very defensively, focused, and there'll be a lot of tackling, a lot of chest movements on both sides of the board. Line of scrimmage will be dominant. Georgia's offensive line has grown up as the season's gone on. So is Texas's. Texas's defensive front is loaded with a bunch of 5-star blue chip players, just young players. We've seen them grow, but they're still on defense, on the defensive line and the secondary for Georgia. How do they keep growing? The linebackers have showed up every single week and they made plays, especially C.J. Allen. But how does Texas attack that growing, inexperienced defensive line? And That secondary that has seen some issues, whether it's at safety or it's, a corner. Dylan Everett's is the number one corner of the team. Hasn't really had much exposure in terms of teams throwing at him. They've gone after Ellis Robinson. They've gone after other guys on the other side, whether it's, Jones, and obviously also attack the secondary at the safety position. So how does the Texas team and how does the Georgia defense and Texas offense, how does that matchup go down? What does Sark have in his back pocket to attack Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart? And what do they have? How do those linebackers in that pass rush keep evolving as we've seen? Because last week it was great. We saw it in the fourth quarter versus Florida. They played great in the fourth quarter versus Ole Miss. They played great in the second half versus Alabama and Auburn. How does that Georgia defense keep setting the tone and playing a full four-quarter game like they did the past two times they played Texas? If Texas is going to win, strike early, strike often. You had slow starts versus Georgia the past two times. Then you come out on your opening couple drives and put touchdowns on the board, and then let your pass rush, let your defense, which has tons of talent, be unleashed. This will be the best on paper defense that Georgia has faced all season. Can Texas's defense get after it? Look what they did week one. I know it was back in August 31st. They held Ohio State to 14 points.
Right.
Julian's saying, even though it was his first real start, they played great against him. They had them, and they limited Jeremiah Smith. If that Texas defense shows up, what does Gunnar Stockton, that Georgia offense, have? What does Mike Bobo have? If I'm Mike Bobo, you've had a lot of success with 12 and 13 personnel. Use your tight ends, run the football, use a lot of play action off of that. You've seen success. It also help the offensive line with some blocks. You keep some guys in and make it look a little run heavy. You're going to have to do that. You did it before. You've run the football against them. ETN had 4 touchdowns, I believe 4 touchdowns in the 2 games combined versus Texas. Run the football. You can be more physical. This team actually matches up with Georgia, and Texas matches up with Georgia, and Georgia matches up with Texas very equally, and actually probably best for both programs. That's where it comes down to who's more physical, who will be able to play a full 60 without blinking, and who's tough enough when the fourth quarter comes. I can see this game being like a 20-17, 24-20 ball game. Very, very tight, maybe even less than that. This will not be a track meet, like these, other games might happen. I think being in Athens gives Georgia an advantage. Texas will lead at some point in this ballgame. It's just the way it's been. But Georgia will find a way to fight back in the fourth quarter and win. I think Dogs win 20-17 in a hard-fought game. And you know what? The committee might see that Texas is worthy with 3 losses. But I think this is going to be a grinded out. Who's really signing up for a full 60-plus? Who is going to be physical enough to be able to get the job done? Texas can win this football game in multiple ways. But Arch, are you ready to go on the road? This will be the most hostile road environment Arch has ever played in. Can you get the job done on third down in the second half when it matters? Can the Texas offensive line hold up? Can Georgia's defensive line hold up? Can Georgia's secondary line hold up? That is where it's going to matter. On that, when Texas has the ball, how is those pendulums going to swing is going to matter, and who's going to be able to set the tone. But I think Gunnar Stockton is the better quarterback right now as we play this football game. And that's the reason why it'll come down and be the deciding factor. Georgia wins in a tight one, 20-17, under the lights there in Athens. If Texas wins, their playoff hopes are in great shape, and it puts Georgia in a weird spot. But like Georgia was last year going into Austin, they were the desperate team. This year, Texas is desperate. I expect them to come out and pull out all the stops and they control their own destiny if they pull off the win. If they lose, they're begging the committee to keep them in.
Fresh, I need to know what Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill I'm going to get. In the last 4 games, those 2 guys have combined for 10.5 sacks. A week ago, or about a month ago, those guys combined to have 1.5 sacks. Are they healthy? Has it been were they injured early on? Because we both had them as All-Americans. And I think those are 2 of the best defensive players. I'll throw Caleb Downs in there as well. But I think those 2 are 2 of the best defensive players in all of college football. I have questions about scheme-wise and talent, or how you utilize them, but I will never kind of shy away on the talent I think those 2 have. If you tell me that Gunnar Stockton gets only sacked twice in this football game, like he takes 2 sacks, 2 or less, I would say, okay, Georgia probably wins this football game. If Gunnar is having to run around more because those 2 guys are getting after him, they're creating pressure, they're creating confusion, because Gunnar's only thrown 2 interceptions on the season. And that's huge. If he protects the football, me and you have talked earlier on the year. I think he puts his guys in space, makes the right throw. I don't think he is going to beat everyone with his arm, but I think he's a smart quarterback and runs the offense the right way. He's a game manager in my mind. Guys, people for some reason think game manager is a bad thing. Tom Brady was a game manager. He managed a football game. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing. He's not, I would never say Gunnar Stockton is a gunslinger. He's not Brett Favre out there. That's what I got to see. I got to see Georgia's offensive line be able to protect Gunnar Stockton and get the run game going. We saw Nate Frazier have a really good game last weekend. Are they able to do that? Or is Anthony Hill and Colin Simmons going to cause problems for this Georgia offense? If that happens, I could see Texas getting a couple of short fields where you get the ball, even if you're getting punts on it, you can get the ball in your 40, 45, get occasionally the ball in Georgia's side of the field here. That's this type of stuff that makes me worried. If you can't protect your home field, this Texas team can take advantage of you. They can. Now, with all that being said, Kirby lost once in Athens already this year. I said this at the Ole Miss game. Kirby doesn't lose more than once in Athens in a year if he does ever. They had a long enough home win streak. They had a long enough winning streak in the regular season. I'm not picking against Kirby Smart in Athens, Georgia. I'm just not doing it. Even if Texas would have to be 3 times better than what they are right now. And again, do I think Texas is a bad football team? No, I don't. I think they are a very good football team. I think they're inconsistent at times, and I think that they have some things that they do need to work on. I also will praise them for those 2 defensive players that, outside of Caleb Downs, I might personally trade for them. I'd probably back up the Brinks truck for those 2 guys. I just don't see it. I don't see Texas going into Athens and winning this football game. It may be close. This may be a 3-4 point game at the end of it, but I legitimately think Georgia's going to win this football game. They may just barely keep Texas at arm's length for the whole football game. It may be like we're up 4, we're up 6 the whole game long, and Texas is always right there in striking distance, but never actually strikes. Never gets a lead in this one as well. So give me Georgia to win this football game. Texas with 3 losses. You're a good team. Hey, great job out of you. Don't lose to Florida. I feel like you're last year's Ole Miss. I really do. Great football team.
I liked how you started off where if Sark loses, then that becomes the same situation that other people have seen, where this is a big thing for him. Does he get caught up in the moment of, I have to, he took a Texas team into Tuscaloosa and beat Nick Saban.
He did.
Last year, he won 2 playoff games, and he gave Ohio State a good run. Obviously, there were 2 big plays that Ohio State made, because Ohio State they made the plays, but he has gotten the team ready to play. Is this Texas team the same, though? This is not I want to see is this the same Texas team that those previous couple, the versions were, that had the success, that had the dominant players. And you brought up Anthony Hill, and you brought up, we have Trey Moore as well, and we got Colin Simmons. If there's ever a game that they need to show up at, this is the game. You have Taffy back. You have the entire secondary locked in. If there's a game that they need to show up, it's this game right here, because I'm going to tell you right now, Texas versus Texas A&M, Texas has the same mentality. They own them, and that mystique will still hang over. It'll give them even more motivation. But this is the game that you have to make that game even more. So I expect Sark to come out and provide every element possible and throw every kind of thing in the kitchen sink, taking shots, using a lot of his different motions. This is going to be, we're going to find out if Sark is actually a true play calling genius in a masterclass from that perspective. I expect him to, anything's possible, anything's on the table from their portfolio and their playbook come Saturday night.
All right, Fresh. Let's move to our quick hits here. What do you got for me? Give me a couple of them. I do have 2 for you.
Well, first I'll start naming. We're going to say the SEC. Go Mississippi State and Missouri. You're probably wondering, why is Mississippi State and Missouri? Mississippi State's had 5 wins and gave Texas a hell of a run. Missouri's been reeling. Missouri has wins over Central Arkansas, Kansas, Louisiana, South Carolina, UMass, and Auburn. They have 3 losses versus top 10 teams. They're not very good. If Hail State has a chance to make a bowl game, if you can go in and take out Missouri, who's reeling with the back quarterback, the chance is there right now. Let Blake, even if Blake Shapen doesn't play, go in there. You got nothing to lose. Attack. You can already say in the first quarter, we went toe to toe with Georgia and we gave Texas all they can handle. We could take Missouri. So I'm seeing if Mississippi State can come in and get themselves bowl eligible in year 2 of Jeff Levy, that'd be huge.
All right, Fresh. I'm going over to the Sun Belt for my first one here. I think it's an absolute crime against humanity that the James Madison Dukes are not in the playoff conversation. I know that people will say the Sun Belt's not very good. I get it. They've won the games in front of them. They're 6-0 in the Sun Belt. They're dominating out there. And they get the App State Mountaineers at home. James Madison, 20.5 point favorite here as well. They need a statement game. State doesn't carry the same level that it used to. People will always remember the App State upset over the Wolverines there. So again, it gives them at least name recognition to hopefully propel James Madison into that top 25 for me.
Yeah, that's a big game for them to make that done. My next quick hit, Arizona at Cincinnati. Cincinnati technically is still alive for the Big 12 title game. We all kind of lost them after they took that big L a couple of weeks ago at Utah. But they're 5-1 in the Big 12. They get BYU next week, and they have a chance for a playoff spot, and a conference title is still wide alive. You just got to go in. You have 2 weeks off since that loss. How does this team reset, come in here, beat Arizona, and set yourself up for BYU and potentially a spot in the Big 12 title game? I want to see how they respond to that loss and if they can keep their mind focused and keep their goals ahead of them because they're still right there in front of them.
All right, Trish, I'm going all the way out to the Mountain West here. Wyoming Cowboys, they're going up against Fresno State. Fresno State win a few weeks ago against Boise State on the Big Blue. Wyoming is only a 3.5 point favorite. I love Fresno State and the points in this game here right now. Fresh, I think Fresno State is one of the better teams over there in the Mountain West. I'm keeping my eye on them to get ready for a bowl season and maybe, just maybe, have a big time upset during bowl week.
We'll see what happens. Speaking of picks, my fresh pick for the week, Indiana did not cover last week. They barely, they had the great comeback. They did not cover. But this week, I'm 5-9 of the year. I'm desperate for a win. I'm going with Lane. I'm going with the Lane train because you know what? If there's someone who's petty and wants to make a statement, it's Lane Kiffin. Last year, Florida ruined their playoff chances. Florida is right now a mess. The intrigue of potentially Lane Kiffin going to Florida all around it. He wants to impress the playoff committee. I think it's a pick your score kind of game for Ole Miss. Light up the Gators. They are wounded. They gave up for Kentucky. I don't care what the spread is. 16.5, 17.5, 20.5. Ole Miss is going to roll them. And it's going to put more intrigue into Lane Kiffin. Is he a playoff team? Is Ole Miss a playoff team? Is he doing this in spite? Now, the one caveat, does he not run up the score? And because he is taking the Florida job, we'll know by the end of Saturday if that is in play. But I think they're going to run it up as spite of, you beat us last year and won our playoff spot. I'm going to bury you right now.
All right, Fresh. It's time to play everyone's favorite game show. It's time for Fresh to guess how much these tickets cost. Fresh, we're going to throw a little bit of a loop for you this weekend. A little loop.
Looking forward to it.
All right, I got 3. These are 3 Power 4 games. Now, out there, Texas State at Southern Miss is not a Power 4 game. It costs you $7 to get in to Texas State at Southern Miss. $7 to get in the game. Which one of these games is, and all these games are under $10 to get into, so it will not cost you more than a Alexander Hamilton. Is it more, less, or the same? One of them is more, one of them is less, and one of them is exactly the same as Texas State versus Southern Miss. Our first game, Fresh, we have the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets at Boston College. We have NC State at Miami and Maryland at Illinois. Which game is more, less, and the exact same?
I'm going to say the Boston College game is less.
Okay.
Miami game is more, and Illinois is the same.
All right. Our answer, for those of you playing at home, the game that is the exact same price as Texas State at Southern Miss is Georgia Tech at Boston College. It will cost you $7 to get into that game. The more expensive game, it's breaking the bank. You only get $2 back instead of $3 on your Hamilton. Maryland at Illinois is $8 for the cheapest ticket out there on StubHub. And The least expensive game, Fresh, I couldn't believe this. I had to check it. NC State at Miami. You can get in for $3.
I'm going to tell you right now, I will say this right now. You are not back. You are not back. If there is a seat in your stadium for a home game, someone could get in for $3.
Yep, $3.
You are not back. You are not back, Miami. And that right there, when Miami was back, I don't care what stadium, when they were in the Old Orange Bowl, the cheapest ticket would be maybe $60. $3.
$3.
You're paying, 30, maybe 10 times, 15, 20 times the park? You could buy, you're going to have a beer in the stadium is going to cost not 15 probably. Wow. I mean, hey, if you want to take your family to see a Miami Hurricanes, NC State, do it. $3 a pop, at least for one ticket. Getting the door is not bad, but you are not back, Miami, if that's the cheapest ticket available.
You are in the upper level on about the 25, maybe
25-yard line upper deck for $3. Lock me in.
Not bad at all. There's a couple in there for $6. It's technically $4 with the whatever tax is on there. That's impressive.
That's
all right, folks.
Not bad at all.
You've been listening to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're part of Spinnable Sports, so make sure you check out spinnablesports.com. You can find Fresh's top 25 over there. I'll release my top 25, my playoff ranking on the wrap-up show on the weekend. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episode. We're cruising towards Rivalry week, so make sure you're locked in with us. Engage with us. Hey, we enjoy talking with you guys down in the comments section. So make sure you leave us your comments. Let us know who you think, where we're right, where we're wrong, and how crazy we are on certain things. I've been enjoying engaging with people down there. Like, subscribe, wherever you get your podcast from. Thank you to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. Fresh, that's all I got for week number 12. Let's lock in and keep this thing rolling.
Keep it rolling. If you want to see my top 25 and my honorable mentions, it's on spinnablesports.com. Hit us up, spread the word, engage with us. Spinnable Sports YouTube channel, where it's at. Keep building that momentum. We'd love to hear back from you. That's our full videos or our shorts. Can't wait to get through this week, see what happens. A lot of exciting games. And then from there, your recap episode. But until next time, we'll talk to y'all later. Bye, y'all.